thanks to all of you for, the majority of you, for staying right through the meeting. I'm supposed to summarize now, so I'll be succinct and brief. We started with, shall I call them, the Brussels Brigade. And curiously, none of them is here still. Just as a clinical observation. But I was interested to hear that Mr. Hansen from the European Commission agreed that a European Devices Agency would indeed be desirable. Unfortunately, politically, of course, this is going to be challenging. When you get 2 or 3 people gathered together to come to a decision is very difficult. But, of course, when you get 33 countries gathered together, you see the complexity of what we're facing in Europe. And this was apparent in the subsequent talks. And I think that the need for proper ethics, and also Brennan brought out there's really quite a lot in common between the USA and European systems. Then we had 3 presenters from other societies, and I think that the lesson from our cardiological colleagues, from Raphael Rosenheck and his colleagues, was the need for proper registries for these dangerous devices. And talking about registration, of course, going back to Hansen, he's pointed out that to take relatively minor changes for Class 3 devices, having proper notified bodies and so on, started in 2008. It passed through Parliament the first reading last year, and then there has to be consultation, and the implementation may not be for another 3 years. So it's quite remarkable that this whole process in the European Union and the European Commission, European Parliament, is going to take approximately 10 years. We heard from Brendan Cooper, again from the Respiratory Association, and he was, in a number of messages, the need to control apps came through, and that came through with Bob Ratner from the ADA as well, and how they class devices into low, medium, and high risk. He talked about the FDA, and then he emphasized the need for interoperability and, of course, mentioned 12IEEE, but refused to answer questions on it, which I thought was rather sensible. So then we went in the afternoon and had the summary of what I hope will be a very useful document, our joint statement, EASD and ADA, which will be published in April, and Lutz Heinemann did a great job there. And he brought, perhaps to our minds, the MORD system, which is the Manufacturers and User Facility Device Experience, MORD in the United States. There are some inaccuracies, and one has to be careful, therefore, with registries. Then after the break, we heard from Kelly Close and her remarkable organization of Close Concerns, and how she had formed Diatribe, which is a website for patients. And quite remarkably, again, this morning, already I've had an email summarizing yesterday's meeting from Close Concerns. So this is pretty impressive, but I have to admit I'm not stealing from her summary now. This is mine. We've had an excellent morning today, starting with Amanda Adler, and a very clear presentation about NICE, and emphasizing the reality, the importance of health-related quality of life, costs, and in very detailed, 3 different products going through that, or devices going through that system. Not too different from our colleagues in France, pretty similar. Pumps are reimbursed, but the obstacle that came out was that some départements don't have the necessary qualified staff that meet their prerequisites. So there are problems, and of course, patients may need to go from one department to another to start on pumps at a necessarily qualified hospital. The system in Germany does seem to be somewhat different, and I was interested that effectiveness came into their equation, but not costs, which of course was left to the regulatory authorities, I guess. Then worryingly from Latvia and from Turkey was the great disparity in what's available and how much money is spent per year on diabetes from the north to the south, from the west to the east. And interestingly, last weekend I was at a meeting in Tbilisi, and I found out that in Azerbaijan, CIS, all children with type 1 diabetes get pumps now. I guess that's the usefulness of oil. Perhaps that'll change now with a drop of price, but it's an interesting, I was really quite impressed that all these children got CSII, continuous subcutaneous insulin infusion. But the disparities were brought out by Drs. Pirags and Karadenic, and this obviously is very worrying, and the fact that many countries in the East do not have any reimbursement for devices is troubling. And then you've just heard two excellent talks, really top-class talks, from Steve Russell and his impressive studies in Beacon Hill and the camps, and having that map. I see that he included all the necessary restaurants to really test the system out, and a dual hormone system. And then we heard that in 2018 it's going to be available. It's quicker to do that than to get small changes in devices through the European Parliament. Interesting observation. And lastly, from Lala Leena-Ratner, from the Cambridge group and now Manchester, is the impressive number of studies in Europe, most of these single hormone, but some dual hormone as well. And of course, he talked about the countries he had worked with. Neuss, just here across the Rhine in Dusseldorf, Austria and the UK. And then, of course, our colleagues in Slovenia and Israel, working with the DREAM Consortium. And it's nice to hear it right at the end that some collaborative studies from the UK, US, Europe, US are being planned, or if not yet started. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, you hopefully will agree that we've had an excellent 2 days. We will be meeting again sometime in the first quarter of next year, and we will announce those dates soon when we've cleared the dates with here, but also with other meetings that might clash with it, such as the British Diabetic Association Diabetes UK meeting and the ATTD, both of which occur in the first quarter, mainly each year. So this will be available on the web. I'm right, Monica, I think? Yeah. It'll be a webcast, will be available, and it shouldn't be too long. And we do hope you've had an enjoyable time. Gentlemen, be careful if you're wearing ties. You'll have seen Dr. Jorgens only has half a tie now, but I suspect he cut it off himself, actually. But apparently ladies tend to cut men's ties off, and only ties, don't worry, on this carnival day in Dusseldorf. So I wish you a safe and tie-free, cutting-free journey home for our male colleagues. And we look forward to seeing all and hopefully more of you here next year. Thank you very much. And thanks to the ASD, the ladies who have organized this, Anke, Manya, and Sarah, and Dr. Gruser and the team. It's a terrific organization. It's run smoothly and almost on schedule. So thank you to all our speakers, and safe journey home.